Hello friends! So today I'm here to share with you all of the books that I read in the month of November. I had a very good reading month. I ended up with 19 books total and 5 of those were audiobooks. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first book I listened to on audio and it was Steam and Sorcery by Cindy Spencer Pape. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I actually gave this 2 stars. It was not a good start to the month for me. I didn't really care either way about the story. I didn't like it and I didn't dislike it. And I didn't care about the characters. I didn't like them and I didn't dislike them. It was just kind of meh for me. Yeah, this one, it just wasn't for me. I didn't think it was anything special. So, yeah. The next book I read was You Can Have Manhattan by Pete Angelico, and I gave this one 5 stars. This was one of my favorite reads for the month. This is about a woman who she has kind of been groomed to take over this business that she has worked for, I think, since she got out of college. And she finds out that her boss is sick and he wants her to marry his son so that he can leave the business to her and it won't, like, it can be, like, within the family or whatever. So she goes to Wyoming where his son lives and he is a rancher and he does not want to have anything to do with her because she works for his father, and this was a marriage of convenience, I guess you would call it. I loved this so much. I really liked the characters. They had a lot of, like, banter, and it wasn't really enemies to lovers, but they didn't like each other at the beginning. But I adored this book. I cannot wait to pick up more books by Pete Angelico. Next was Ride Hard by Laura Kay. This is book 1 in the Raven Riders series. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's a motorcycle romance. This is about the president of the motorcycle club and a woman who has run away from a abusive relationship from her father, and she ends up coming to his club to help keep her safe while she's hiding from her father, and I really enjoy this. If you watched my Romanceopoly-a-thon vlog, I said I think this would be a really good starter motorcycle romance. It wasn't too heavy, but I felt like it did a good job of explaining kind of the culture and lifestyle, but without going crazy on it. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Next, I started a new series by Elle Kennedy, and I read Midnight Rescue. This is book 1 in the Killer Instinct series. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really liked this. This series is about a group of mercenaries, and in this one, they get hired on to help out. I think technically she was an assassin. But she had gone undercover in Colombia, and she was going to, like, take out this drug lord. Well, she ended up running into this, like, human trafficking situation. So she enlists the help of the mercenaries to help her save the young girls that are being trafficked. And I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed the way it was written because, like, it's the assassin and one of the mercenaries' love story, but you're getting their perspective, and then once it got into kind of the meat of the rescue story, you started getting other mercenaries' point of views, and you even got the villain point of view a little bit. I really liked how, like, it felt like a full story because you were getting so many different aspects. Next, I listened to The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, and I don't have a rating written down for this one because I don't know what to do with this. Still, even at the end of the month, I don't know what to do with it. This is a historical romance where they end up having to get married. They do like each other, but he doesn't want to get married. He doesn't want to have babies because of how he was treated as a kid. And I don't even really remember what it was, why they ended up coming up with the plan where they would get married. And they were, I believed they were in love. I did believe that. But then there was this whole consent issue. And I talked about it, again, I talked about it a little bit in my Romanceopoly-a-thon vlog. And I wasn't about that situation. And I couldn't do, like, I can't do this anymore. Next, I read Rustic Hearts by Amber Kelly. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This is about a woman who, I believe, she was 11 or 12, her mother moves her to New York City, away from just outside of Denver, Colorado, where she's grown up. And I believe now in the present day she's in her early 30s, and she gets a call that her grandmother in Colorado has passed away and the family there would like her to come back for the funeral. And she has had nothing to do with her father or any of the other family that still lives in Denver. She does end up going back to Colorado and kind of having this little bit of a hate to love relationship with the nephew of her father's new wife. I did really enjoy this one, but I only gave it 4 stars because the beginning of it, when she was still in New York, kind of before and as she was finding out that her grandmother had passed away, it was really choppy, I guess would be the way. I felt like the chapters were really short and I wasn't getting the full extent of the story. But I did really enjoy the kind of family aspect to it, where she hasn't spoken to these people since she was basically a child, and she's remembering them, but also learning kind of who they are now, and I really enjoyed that. Next was Tattered by Devney Perry. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. This is about a couple who, in New York City, they had a one-night stand. She ends up getting pregnant and moving to Montana because she did not know his last name to look up to tell him that she was pregnant. He ends up actually in the same small town in Montana for work and discovers her and their child. And this is them kind of rekindling their romance. I did like the story. I just wasn't very into either main character. I felt like they could have communicated way better, and I didn't really feel their connection. I felt like they were telling me they had a connection instead of me just feeling it. But there are other people in the series who I already have the books. I already have the rest of the books in the series. But there are other couples who I am very interested to get to. Next was a chunker of a book, and that was Supernova by Marissa Meyer. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. This is the conclusion to the Renegades trilogy. Without spoiling anything on this series, I was very pleased with how it ended. Next, I listened to the audiobook of Must Love Dukes by Elizabeth Michaels. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This is another historical romance where a woman is kind of reaching the end of where she should be searching for the age of where she should be searching for a husband, and her brothers decide that she is going to go out into society. They're gonna find her a husband that will benefit their family, and she does not want that. She ends up kind of teaming up with this duke who also does not want to be in society. I think he was a sailor or something, and they kind of team up, and he has her do all of these crazy schemes and everything to get rid of her suitors. Are the same guys that he doesn't want to be around, so he comes up with these crazy pranks and stuff. And I thought those were so cute. They were just being a little team and causing mischief, and I did really like it. Then I got to probably the most hyped romance book of 2019, The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. I really loved it. There was something was holding me back on it, and I cannot figure out why it was not a 5-star read for me. It was funny. Both main characters were very frustrating at times, and I thought it was never been married, so I don't know, but I thought it was a very realistic portrayal of a marriage. I wrote in my little notes that I could have done without the sister, but I believe she's the female character in book 2, so we'll see how that goes. Next, I read His Royal Highness by R.S. Gray. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I loved this book to pieces. As a huge Disney nerd, as somebody who loves going to Disney World, this was such a good book. The setting of this book is a theme park, kind of like Disney World. The main female character is one of the employees who dresses up as the main princess for this theme park. And when she was first hired on, she had the grandson of the owner as her mentor. and he ended up leaving to go open up another theme park overseas, but now he's back, and his grandfather wants him to be her Prince Charming at the castle. And oh my goodness, I loved this book so much. There was a little bit of her family, not really drama, but just kind of like her family life that I would have liked to have been a little bit more fleshed out, which is why I only gave it 4.5 stars. Next, I listened to the audiobook of my other favorite book for this month, and that was Eleanor and Gray by Brittany C. Cherry. I gave this one 5 stars. This was, the first part of it is Eleanor and Gray meeting when they are in high school, and I knew this book was going to have my heart when she told him that she didn't want to talk to him because they didn't have anything in common. And she doesn't hear from him for, I think it was a couple of months, and then he shows back up, and he was like, well, you were reading Harry Potter, so I read all of the books that are out so far, so we would have something in common. And I knew at that point that I was going to love this book. So things happen. Eleanor ends up having to move away. As an adult, she is moving back, finally, to their town, and she ends up getting hired to be a nanny for Gray and his 2 girls who have, like, their mother has passed away. I think it was a year before all of this happened, I think. But I was super satisfied with the story. I was super satisfied with all of the characters. I felt like they were as fleshed out as they possibly could have been. I felt like they were real people who I was watching all of this happen to. I connected to the writing, the story, everything. I loved it. Next was Praying for Rain by B.B. Easton. This is the first book in a trilogy, and I ended up only giving this one 3 stars, but I am interested to see where the story goes. This is kind of a pre-apocalyptic story. Everyone in the world has started having dreams that the world is going to end on a certain day, and I think this was like 5 days ahead of that time. The main characters meet at like that 3 to 5 days before the world is gonna end point, and not much else happened. It didn't feel like, to me, the story, like, led anywhere, but I am interested to see where it goes in the following 2 books so that it's a whole, like, complete story. Next was We Walked the Sky by Lisa Fielder. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. This was a dual timeline story. On the one side, you have a young woman. I forget what year it was, but it was in the past, and she is trying to escape an abusive home life. So she runs away and joins the circus, changes her name. Basically, she uses the circus as kind of like a hiding spot, but she ends up falling in love with one of the sons of the owner of the circus. And in the present day, it is her granddaughter whose mom has decided that they are leaving the circus and moving to Florida to live at an animal sanctuary because the mother works with animals. And this teenager was just not having it. She was a brat. I did not like her. I was much more interested in the I was much more interested in the grandmother story. And yeah, I couldn't get the present day teenager. Then I read A Wicked Kind of Husband by Mia Vinci, and I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. This is about this is another historical romance about a couple who has been married, I believe it was for 2 years, but they don't live in the same house. They've never seen each other after their wedding day and night, and she ends up coming to London because she wants to try to convince her grandmother to take her sister in so that her sister can try to find a husband. And she ends up running into her own husband, who did not know that she was going to be in London, and they kind of learn more about each other and decide that they actually like each other. The only thing that I wrote down was that this was not my favorite historical romance I've read, and that the main characters were very frustrating. Then I got to Disarm by Karina Halley. This is book 2 in the Dumont series. I ended up only giving this one a 3.5 stars. I believe the first one I gave 4. I really wanted to like this book more than the first one, because I thought that I would like these these two characters more than I liked the two in the first book. But it felt like a lot was happening, and then the end just kind of threw me off. It was very rushed, and yeah. Then I got to Accidentally on Purpose by Jill Shalvis. This is the first book that I read for the Used Bookathon, and I believe this is book 3 in the Heartbreaker Bay series. This is about Elle, who is the kind of building manager for the apartments that are, like, this whole series kind of takes place in this little, like, complex thing with all of these different shops and some apartments and all of that kind of stuff. She is the building manager for the apartment, and Archer runs a security firm out of one of the office buildings. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I loved this couple. They were so bantery and so cute. Then I listened to the audiobook of Lover Eternal by J.R. Ward. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I really liked this couple. I don't think I liked this couple as much as I liked the couple in the first book, but I really liked that it was also... there were certain aspects of it that enhanced this Black Dagger Brotherhood world instead of just kind of coasting by on what it was from the first one. So I am really looking forward to continue with that and learn kind of more about what's going on in it. The last book that I got to in November was Midnight Alias by Elle Kennedy. This is book 2 in her Killer Instinct series. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The mercenary team is assigned to figure out if a DEA undercover agent has been killed or if he's gone rogue or what's happening with him. So they are staking out this strip club, and one of the guys ends up meeting with and kind of falling for one of the strippers. This was a good one. It's just that the main couple was not my primary focus on this one, because there was a couple that kind of had a thing in the first one a little bit, and then they were kind of having a little thing in this one. And I believe they're the main couple in book 3, and I'm really going to need them to be because they were my primary focus. I was more interested to get to their parts than I was to read about the couple that this book was actually about. So those are the books that I read in November. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!